All right, welcome. Today we're going to go on a bit of a journey. We're going to start with something you can almost touch, a robot, and end up asking if, well, if anything is even real. You ready for this? Let's dive in.
I know. It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, doesn't it? Uploading our minds, teleporting across the galaxy. But this isn't just fantasy. It's a question people are seriously trying to answer. So how in the world do we get from here to there? Well, the path actually starts somewhere a lot more grounded than you might think.
Okay, so it all kicks off with something happening right under our noses. The race to build the first real, honest-to-goodness humanoid robots. And I'm not talking about some far-off future. This is happening right now.
And look who's in the running. I mean, the sheer number of heavy hitters here is just staggering. You've got the big guys, right? Tesla, Boston Dynamics. But you've also got these really nimble newcomers like Figure AI and Unitree out of China, which, by the way, is already shipping robots. It's like the perfect storm of AI getting smarter and manufacturing getting better has just fired the starting pistol on this whole race.
And believe me, the stakes are unbelievably high. This isn't some little side project for these companies. The thinking is that whoever cracks this will unlock trillions with a T in economic value. I mean, listen to this. For a company like Tesla, the projection is that its robot division could one day be worth more than its entire car business. Just let that sink in for a second.
So, what's the big idea here? What's the end game? Well, it's about completely changing how our society works, and it kind of boils down to a three-step plan. Step 1, you let robots handle all the tough, boring, dangerous physical jobs. Step 2, you let AI take over the knowledge work. You know, the coding, the number crunching, all that stuff. And that leaves what for us? Well, that's step 3, a world where we are finally free to focus on creativity, our families, our passions, because getting a job is no longer about basic survival.
I mean, just look at the difference. On one side, you've got our world today, where for most people, work is mandatory just to live. On the other side, you've got this potential work-optional future. Work becomes something you do for fulfillment, not just to pay the bills. Can you imagine that? Having a robot out there earning an income for you so you can actually focus on what you love?
Okay, but this whole idea of automated labor, it naturally leads to a much deeper question. If we can build these amazing robots that can perfectly copy what our bodies do, what's to stop us from giving them a copy of our minds too? And yeah, this is where we take a step into the truly mind-bending stuff, the idea of uploading human consciousness.
So, can we actually do it? That's the billion-dollar question, right? Is it even possible to take everything that makes you you, all your memories, your quirks, your personality, and just translate it into digital code? The challenge is enormous, for sure, but the goal? It's something people are calling digital immortality.
Okay, so how much data are we even talking about here? Well, the best estimates from scientists say the human brain can store around 2.5 petabytes of information. To give you some perspective, that's like watching 300 years of nonstop HD video. It's just a mind-boggling amount of data, right?
But, and this is the real kicker, for a modern robot or an AI system, 2.5 petabytes is nothing. Seriously, they can handle that kind of storage capacity no problem. So the bottleneck isn't the storage space. It's figuring out how to get the data from our squishy, biological brain into that digital format. So yeah, that's the dream, right? The end goal is to create a version of you that can keep on living in a digital world, maybe forever, long after your physical body is gone. It's an idea that's slowly moving out of the realm of science fiction and becoming an actual technological goal.
Okay, so think about this. If you can exist as pure information, as just a stream of data, why would you ever need a slow, clunky physical rocket ship to travel? Let's take this idea and zoom out, way out, from our planet to the entire galaxy. I mean, just look at how fast transportation is expected to evolve. We're talking about going from self-driving cars to having regular colonies on Mars in just a few decades. But the real game changer comes after that. That's when physical travel itself might become obsolete. You wouldn't fly to another star system, you just beam your consciousness there at the speed of light.
So how would that even work in practice? Well, you can kind of break it down into 4 steps. First, you send a really simple, lightweight robot probe, basically an empty shell, to a faraway planet. Then, back here on Earth, you map your brain, digitize your consciousness, and just shoot that data across space. And boom, you wake up instantly in that robot body, maybe on a planet light years away, while your original self is still safe and sound back home.
Think about what this means for a second. It's profound.
Your physical appearance, how you look, everything. It all becomes fluid. It becomes a choice. Your body isn't you anymore. It's just one of many options, one of many vessels you could choose to use. And this, well, this brings us to the final and maybe the most fundamental question of them all. We've been talking about simulating a human mind inside a machine, but what if we're already inside one? Okay, so this is the core idea behind what's called simulation theory. The logic is actually pretty straightforward. It goes like this. If any civilization anywhere ever gets advanced enough to create a simulated reality with conscious beings inside, they probably won't just make one, they'll make billions of them. So for every one real base reality, there would be billions of fake ones. Statistically then, the odds are just overwhelming that we're living in one of the simulations, not the original one. And the weird thing is, modern physics is actually full of hints that reality isn't as straightforward as it seems. Take something called quantum entanglement. Einstein famously called it spooky action at a distance. Imagine you have two particles that are linked. You send one to the other side of the universe. The very instant you measure your particle here, you instantly know the state of the other one over there. There's no signal sent between them. It's an instantaneous, spooky connection that just breaks all our normal rules about space and time.
See, our brains are basically hardwired to see a world made up of separate, distinct objects. You know, a chair is a chair, a table is a table. But what quantum mechanics tells us is that that might just be an illusion. That underneath it all, everything might be part of one single interconnected whole. A non-local reality where everything is fundamentally linked in ways we just can't perceive in our day-to-day lives.
Now, what's really interesting is that the source material points out how this super modern scientific idea of a connected universe, well, it has these philosophical echoes in some very ancient wisdom. It brings up examples, like poetic verses in the Quran, that talk about the unity of all creation. Now, it's really important to be clear. These are seen as philosophical metaphors, not literal science. The point being made is simply that as our science gets weirder and more complex, it sometimes starts to sound a little like these very old ideas about reality.
So, here we are. We started this journey with robots that might one day do our laundry, and we've ended up with our consciousness becoming data and the very fabric of reality being a giant question mark. It really just leaves us with one final huge question, doesn't it? If our bodies are optional and reality itself is questionable, then what are we?